This year, Apple made a design choice that shocked everyone. After years of pushing titanium as the ultimate material for its premium phone, it's reverted to aluminum, the same material found in its base iPhone. Is this the worst decision Apple's ever made? It's complicated. Aluminium is a pretty soft metal. It's not going to hold up very well against a drop, but that's not for nothing. Aluminum has much better thermal performance and it's significantly lighter than titanium. And when they were talking about the thermal performance, I was kind of like, big whoop, who cares? But even just doing the data transfer between the 16 and 17, the 16 was scalding hot and held that heat, whereas the 17, that whole process of transferring my data, indexing the OS, felt cool to the touch, like I just turned it on. And the screen stays brighter significantly longer because of that better thermal performance. And I do like the aluminum chassis and the fact that those rounded edges feel really good to hold in your hand. And when I had a good friend reach out to me about what I thought about the material change, I said I actually think the trade-offs are great and it's well worth it, but let me see if I change my mind when I first drop it. Well, I dropped it for the first time, and it didn't go very well. That front display completely shattered, and some nice scratches in the aluminum. I thought that was par for the course, but my 16 did survive that drop multiple times, and the 17 didn't even survive one. I haven't even had it a month. And look, I'm an idiot who doesn't use a case. I think you should go one of two routes. You should either use a case or get the insurance. I go the insurance route, so this isn't really that big of a deal. It's $30. The more annoying thing is actually getting to an Apple store and putzing around for a couple hours while they fix it. Most people go the case route, and I think that makes the most sense. First off, you get aesthetic flair, you get grip, and you get, in some cases, utility. And it's ultimately cheaper than going the insurance route. What I will say, though, is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, that was the most durable phone I ever had. I would throw that thing around, I wouldn't even think twice about it. That was a phone that genuinely, if you wanted to go caseless, that was the best phone to recommend and go that route. Like, anyone could do it. It wasn't dumb. The 17, on the other hand, I really couldn't recommend going caseless for anyone other than the most dedicated to babying this thing. I will continue to use this phone caseless, to put it through its paces, to review it as a photography, videography machine, because I feel like it's my responsibility when Apple's running ads like this where they're swinging it caseless through dirt and debris. I think it borders on false advertising because in my experience, the phone does not seem to be as durable as past models. So really, the question is, when a company is designing a phone, who should they consider the most? People who use a case or people who don't use a case? And that's my love-hate with engineering, is there's no perfect decision, it's just priorities. And I think this is really evident in one of my other favorite hobbies, off-roading, especially with the tires. If you're looking at a tire that gets good MPG, it's not going to do good off-road. And if you're looking at a tire that does good in the ice and snow and wet, it's not going to do that good in the sand and rocks. There's always a trade-off. You have to just pick your priority and accept the trade-offs. Choosing a material for a phone is no different. So real quick, I think one thing that we can all agree on is that phones should prioritize water and dust resistance. I think we're well past the days of using those bulky life-proof cases that essentially made your phone a brick. I think any phone by default should be able to handle those conditions to at least some extent. Where I get conflicted, and I think where most of the discourse will be, is on drop resistance and the fact that 95%, if not more, use a case on their phone. And if you're Apple looking at your customer base, of course you need to take that into account. It's way better for you to choose a material that's thermally conductive and softer because it's going to go in a case. And a case is going to hurt thermals in its own right. So that's going to create the best experience for most people. Whereas when Apple made a phone that could stand on its own, yes, it was fine enough for people who didn't use a case, but most people used the case. That was the irony, having probably the worst thermal performance experience they possibly could. So I guess we just have to ask ourselves what we want. Do we want using a case on our phones to be the default? Because there are some good benefits in the fact that there's grip, there's aesthetic flair, there's utility and stuff like having the option to mount camera stuff or like mount it to your bike. There are cool innovations in the case industry in its own right. Or do we want phones that can stand on their own and are durable enough in their own right, and having a case is just some extra option? And I think that there's just trade-offs both ways. Like if you look at something like the iPhone Air, that is completely form over function. And I guess I'm a nerd. I love holding the phone with no case. I just think it feels really nice. Even the new aluminum one, I think it's the best feeling phone in the hand yet. But I also am like, I do miss the titanium. I like that confidence of being like, oh, if it falls off my nightstand, it's not a big deal. And I just want to know if I'm out of touch because I'm a huge nerd. I love that. And I think that should be something that Apple prioritizes, is having a phone that doesn't need a case. In my perfect world, I think the iPhone should be able to stand on its own and not need a case. Obviously, the case should be an option. It shouldn't be a huge detriment. But when Apple wants to sit here and say that the Pro Max is a competitor to pro cinema cameras and other pro camera options, I don't put my cameras in cases. I use them and abuse them the way they came, and I think the iPhone, if it wants to say it's in that competition, should be in the same boat.
Quite honestly, we don't look at other smartphones as our competition, right? They haven't been for years. Our competition are high-end pro cameras.
I do really want your thoughts, so let me know whether you think a phone by default should be assumed it's going in a case or standing on its own right. I'll be in the discussions. We'll keep it civil. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. Subscribe for more photography, art, and tech. Thanks for watching again. Cheers.